Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thank you for staying with us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Substance abuse is the harmful use of psychoactive substances, including alcohol and illicit drugs. A major impact of illicit drug use is the negative health consequence experienced. Psychoactive means the substance can affect how the brain works and alter mood, awareness, thoughts, feelings, or behavior. According to statistics from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, in 2023, current data indicate that globally 296 million people used drugs in a single year, while more than 39 million of them suffered from drug use disorders. Globally, cannabis, used by 129 to 190 million people, is the most common used drug. West and Central Africa report the highest prevalence and increase in its use, with rates between 5.2% and 13.5%. My guest is the Chief Consultant Psychiatrist at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Aro, Abeokuta, in Ogun State. Dr. Aino Oyekomi, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you is, clearly we know that the substance abuse does things to the mind, does things to the brain, but why are psychoactive substances prescription drugs at all?
Yeah, there are different types of substances that people can abuse. You rightly defined psychoactive, meaning that it can act on the nervous system. So there are some drugs that are prescribed by doctors that also have the ability to act on the brain. Unfortunately, some of these drugs can also enhance mood. They can change perception. Therefore, they also have a high risk for abuse.
Are these probably drugs that are used for depression?
Like pain medicines, opioids. You know, example would include things like morphine, tramadol. Yeah. Then we have some anxiety-reducing drugs or sedatives like benzodiazepines.
Is it because other drugs don't work? I mean, why would they use such, should I call them heavy drugs?
No, it's not as if they are heavy or they are bad drugs. You see, different drugs have different side effects, right? So unfortunately, these drugs are very, very wonderful drugs when used properly. You know, and don't forget, there's nothing that human beings cannot abuse. So it's not as if, oh, why would somebody give somebody a drug that has the potential for abuse? Unfortunately, it can be abused, but they are very, very good drugs that are so indicated in some medical conditions.
Okay. Okay, so we know that misuse would affect the brain,
yes,
mood, and behavior and all that. But does it affect other things in the body?
Yes, yes. Aside from affecting the brain, which is the chief organ that is affected, and which is the reason why a lot of people consume these drugs anyway, it can affect so many organ systems of the body. It can affect the liver, it can affect the cardiovascular system, it can affect the digestive system, it can affect your muscular system, and in fact, some people would even use it, you know, to energize them, you know. So it can affect virtually every organ system in the body. So it's not only restricted to the central nervous system.
You have answered one of my next questions. Why do they use them?
Wow.
People want to be energized, is that all?
No, there are, you see, drug abuse, or we prefer to say substance use disorder, because when it comes to substance use disorder, language really matters, because we are trying to bring down the stigma. There are different factors why people can, you know, develop that disorder, and it could happen to anyone. It could happen. It is not a question of maybe weakness, or oh, this person doesn't have morals, or this person is a bad person. It could happen to anybody, just like anybody can develop diabetes or hypertension when the conditions are right. So there are different factors.
Why do you say this? You see, this is puzzling me, because the impression we have of somebody who has a use disorder is somebody who knows that too much of this is bad, but keeps going there until the person is hooked.
Now, the thing is that no one ever set out to become addicted to drugs. Okay. Nobody. But different people start using drugs for different reasons. For young persons, it's usually sometimes out of curiosity, but it's a curiosity that will kill the cat in this case. They like to experiment. Some people out of peer pressure. Some people just for recreational purposes. And some people, you know, to medicate their psychological distress. Maybe they are going through life. Maybe they are going through trauma, child abuse, financial problems, family issues, work problem, work overload, all this, you know, stresses. Some people, they take it to feel better, to feel good, and to perform better. Some people who are workers, you know, that they need to do heavy-duty works, you know, sometimes they take some of these drugs to energize them, you know. Sometimes, even young people take some of these things to perform better sexually, you know. So sometimes people that have poor self-efficacy, poor self-concept, you know, poor self-esteem, they take it to boost their mood, you know, to boost their confidence and all those things. So there are different reasons why people do these things. So we can categorize them into like two major reasons: the factors within the person and factors outside. And like I said, that anybody can get, you know, this disorder, can develop this disorder. I don't want to say addicted, because we don't.
You're changing the language.
Yes, because, you know, when you say addict, it's like you're referencing the person. You are looking at the person. You are not looking at the disorder. So we prefer to say someone with a substance use disorder, because the thing is that substance use disorder, which people call addiction, is a brain disease. It is like every other medical problem. Although, like I said, you know, many people would start out like from, you know, like maybe experimenting or just thinking that, okay, I'm not sleeping well. Okay, let me just take this, you know, like a one-off. And before they know, they develop, you know, this problem. Yes, and it's because of the way the drugs act on the brain, right? I said that it's a brain disease. You know, so these drugs, let me just quickly explain how it acts on the brain so that people can understand. Now, these drugs have the potential to act on some areas of the brain that regulate stress, that we use to develop habits and routine behavior, and they also act on the areas of the brain that we use for executive functioning. That is, you know, the areas of the brain that we use to organize our thoughts and actions, the areas of the brain that we use to self-control and everything. So the problem is that the brain registers pleasure. So, for example, when you eat, you know, it's pleasurable. When people do sport or you win something, it is pleasurable. When you accomplish something, it is pleasurable. So the brain registers this. And why? It is a survival mechanism so that we would repeat that action. Because, I mean, if we eat and it's not pleasurable, we will not bother to eat, and then we will die, you know. But when people use drugs, the brain would also register it as a pleasure. But the problem with this is that the drug now overwhelms the pleasure center. So the pleasure that the person feels is way out of what natural sources of pleasure would offer. So that after a while, the brain gets used to this level of, you know, pleasure, so that these ordinary things will no longer become pleasurable to that person. So you'll see somebody who before used to do sports, who before used to get enjoyment maybe from accomplishments, you know, from studying his books, from making straight A's, you know,
and even from food.
From food and anything. And then when drug replaces that pleasure center, those things no longer appeal to that person. So these drugs will now take primacy over every other thing. That is when there's a problem, right?
Shouldn't these things be taught in schools?
It should. You know, I was onto the different factors that can, you know, cause this. It's usually a combination of many factors, and I keep repeating it. Anybody can develop this disorder. Now, we know that, yes, genetics can play some role in it, but that is not all. Some fundamental factors would include family dynamics. So maybe there are poor conflict resolution methods in the family. Maybe there are family family members that also use the substances. Alcohol, cigarettes, you know, for example, maybe the father uses it and then the son has to clear the table after the father has drunk, and then he just
drag or two.
Yeah, and then he just sips or just drains the bottle in his mouth. And you know, because alcohol and cigarettes are their uses are normalized, people forget that they are drugs. They are drugs. Alcohol, cigarette, they are drugs. And we usually say that they are gateway drugs because a lot of people that go on to marijuana, which is cannabis, that go on to heroin, cocaine, you know, they actually started out with alcohol and cigarette. And I also want to mention another class of drug of abuse, inhalants. And these are, you know, they are so silent and they are in every homes. And inhalants are a group of drugs that, you know, young persons would normally find in the house. They include things like your nail polish, cleaning fluid,
yes,
lighter fluid,
okay,
hairspray, gasoline, petrol.
And people have begun to inhale these things?
Yes, one of my youngest patients that loved to sniff petrol was 3 years old.
Why did he start doing that?
You know, maybe maybe she just inhaled petrol one time and she felt euphoric. You know, because these things, these inhalants, they are absorbed into the brain and they have psychoactive substances. You know, so, you know, sometimes maybe the woman is spraying hairspray into her hair and the child is nearby and then some gets into her face and then she notices that, oh, this thing makes me feel good. And then she starts using it.
Such a small amount that could do that to a child?
Yes. Once the child gets that feeling and the child can associate that feeling with that particular thing, then the child can develop substance use disorder. Because, you know, parents might say that, oh, my child is not smoking, my child is not drinking alcohol, or my child is not taking marijuana. Your child might actually be abusing these inhalants that are in your home. So you need to be on the lookout. So other factors that also would enhance why people would develop this disorder would include things like, you know, when the clear expectations for behaviors are not clearly, you know, articulated and communicated to people. You know, people don't have healthy beliefs regarding these things, and people feel that drugs and glam, they go together, and then the media is also complicit in this.
Yes, that's another thing. Let me just chip this in. People would have most of us believe, they would have us believe, even though we don't, that to face a crowd, to make it, you know, maybe as a celebrity, to face important people, you've got to take something.
That's not right. Although, you know, it's not easy. You know, sometimes, you know, to go on stage to perform, you know, you can have stage fright. You can have anxiety. You know, you can be afraid. Oh, will I perform well? And so sometimes young persons would take these things to boost their mood. You know, to mask the anxiety. Yeah, they can feel that, oh, it will enhance my performance. It might enhance it just in the short term, but it's like you are getting 1 kobo, but you are paying 1 million. That is how it is. So any advantage is nothing compared with what damage is going to cause to your health. And then aside this, young persons also think that drugs enhance their creativity. That's another lie. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yes, that's another thing they say.
Yeah, so they must know this.
That your music is sweeter when you
don't have to take drugs, you know, to enhance your creativity. You don't have to do that.
And has this been scientifically proven?
Yes. There are no scientific researches to prove that drugs, whether marijuana or cocaine or heroin, there are no data to prove that they actually enhance creativity, whether music, art, literature, or science.
UNODC says one of the ways to help these people is to stop stigma.
Yes.
Don't stigmatize it.
Yes.
But you know that nobody wants their child moving about with someone they consider, you know, an addict, someone who is dependent on substance. So how do we approach this? You don't want someone you love or to be seen
as someone having this problem.
And there's the fear that the person might also be recruited.
Yes. The thing is that, you know, substance use disorder falls under the purview of mental illness, and we know that mental illnesses carry a lot of stigma because people don't really understand the concept of mental health and mental illnesses. So mental illnesses at large carry a lot of stigma. So unfortunately, drug addiction or substance use disorder fall into this category. And it is because people don't understand that drug addiction or substance use disorder is a legitimate illness. It's a brain disease, like depression, like schizophrenia, like OCD, like personality disorder. It's a brain problem. You know, drugs actually change the anatomy and the physiology of the brain. That is why when people get onto it, they find it hard to stop. In fact, when they see that this thing is damaging my life, this thing is wrecking my relationships, I'm not performing, I'm not productive like I used to, I'm failing in my role as a father, a mother, a sister, a student, a worker, a manager, what have you, a trader, whoever, I mean, whatever you do. And yet they see that their life is going down the drain, but they cannot stop it.
Cannot stop.
Yes, so it tells you that it is an illness, just like people cannot just wish depression away or diabetes away.
Okay, we'll come back to that, but let's take a short break. Stay with us while we go on a short break and meet us on the other side. Welcome back. We're talking about curbing substance abuse or drug use disorder. This is Health Matters on Channels Television. If you want to get across with your questions, you can tweet at CTV_Mary A or send email to moalale@channelstv.com while we continue the conversation. Let's talk about how to treat these people. What do you do?
Yeah, the first thing is to acknowledge there's a problem. Like you mentioned that a lot of families would want to hide this. There's a lot of secrecy because of the stigma associated with it. So people must understand that hiding it would just compound the problem. So like I said, once people realize that it's a brain disorder and it could happen to anybody, then there shouldn't be any big deal, you know, about taking the person to the right center for treatment. And there are treatments, you know, fantastic treatments that are available to help anybody who has this problem. So the start point should be to acknowledge, you know, for people to get over denying that, oh, there's no problem, the person is just having hard times, we'll talk to him, we'll take him to the pastor, we'll pray for him, we'll do deliverance. Yes, prayers, deliverance, all those things would help. Spirituality would help, but not forgetting that it is a brain disorder that needs more than prayers. It needs intervention of medical professionals, and a lot of people have been helped, you know, through various interventions.
I know that there's some that you use talk therapy for.
Yeah.
But are there actual drugs that help stop substance use dependence?
Yes, there are different classes of drugs. So, for example, the class of opioids, you know, in some countries, you know, they do replacement, you know, so it's called harm reduction. So, for example, maybe somebody is using heroin, you know, and then, you know, because the person has to inject it, and there are lots of risks that go on with, you know, injection of heroin, or maybe somebody is taking morphine or all those things. So they now, you know, want to stop that, but they now replace it with a lesser type of drug that the person will still be getting some effect from, but the harm has been taken away. And then,
so they step it down.
Yes, they step it down. Yes, they step it down, and over time, the person can actually not need those things anymore.
You need the full cooperation of the person.
Yes,
to do this.
Yes, and you know that's where the family, you know, come into play. You know, colleagues, you know, don't do hush hush. Don't say that, oh, I don't want to be the one that will talk to this person. When you see that somebody has this problem, go to that person, talk to that person. You know, some people just need encouragement. Some people just need the support. There's nothing like, you know, social support, family support, you know, will really, really help. And then when the person knows that, yes, I have the support of my friends, my colleagues, they are not looking down at me. I have not lost my human dignity because of this problem. You say, I'm still seen as a human being just with this problem, and I'm going to get over it. So the person would agree into treatment.
But are there cases where those who we call victims now, those who fall into substance misuse or substance dependence, are there cases where they also try to recruit others? to maintain their habit?
Yes, yes, because you see, it's a culture. You know, drug use and everything is a subculture on its own. And people that do it, you know, want other people for different reasons, you know.
But, you know, that's why they would see them as culprits then.
Yes, yes.
It's a fine line.
Yeah, unfortunately. But then even at that, you know, even when they recruit maybe some persons, they might recruit that person initially just to be an agent, you know, just to help them to sell or to get, you know, so that they won't be the one that is seen. And over time, the person might start now tasting, you know, let me just even see how this thing tastes. And sometimes they also give the person so that the person would also get, you know, used to that thing, so that the person will not be able to leave that culture.
That's right.
And they'll be able to
and also
continue,
some money will be coming
yes, and then the person
ones.
will be perpetually in that culture. So there are so many things that go into it. But you see, the society needs to really understand that there's a lot that the society can do. You see, there are so many things that we can do. You see, let's create this feeling of social involvement. Let's not be doing all this individualism. Let people have that sense of belonging, that I belong to a family, I belong to a community, I belong to a school, I belong to a society, I belong to a group. You see, when people have that sense of belonging, it helps. It boosts their self-confidence, it boosts their self-esteem and everything. You know, and then let us also reward efforts and accomplishments, positive ones.
How?
You know, so that, you see, for example, somebody does well, you know, and maybe a child goes to secondary school, does well, he doesn't do drugs, applaud that person, celebrate that person.
We're talking prevention
Yes,
now.
I'm talking prevention. You know, I celebrate that person, form drug clubs in school, celebrate young ones that are doing well. Don't celebrate just celebrities that are even into drugs. You know, you are sending the wrong signal to young ones.
And this should be taught in schools.
It should be taught in school. And then, you know, apart from that, in schools also you should teach people ways, you know, to enhance their social competence, to enhance their emotional competence, and even their cognitive thinking competence. You know, when they do this, it increases their resilience, and people, I mean, young ones are able to handle stress better. They are able to express and manage their emotions better. They are able to be more assertive. They are able to resist social pressure, negative social pressure better, you know, when they are competent mentally. So these are preventive methods, you know, of equipping, of strengthening an individual, so that even when that person comes into contact with people that do this thing, the person has the resilience, the person has the protective factors to resist. Because a lot of times, I mean, drugs are around us. If you don't see them in schools, you see them in neighborhoods. If you don't see them there, you watch them in musical videos. They are all around now, and they are so seductive. You know, they are sold to young persons, and you know, they've been made to be associated with pleasure. They've been made to be associated with fame, with glamour, you know, so seductive that for young persons whose brains are still developing and they don't yet have the capacity, you know, to understand the full consequences of all their actions. And young persons that are so curious, they want to test this. Young persons that are so sensationalized, they want new things, you know, they want to experiment this, you know. So it is so seductive. So we need to be on top of the game. We need to, you know, do preventive things, you know, so that they don't even start at all. The best form of treatment in substance use disorder is prevention. There's nothing like prevention. Prevention is better than cure. And that is not to say that there is no cure. There is cure, although the disorder is a chronic one. People can relapse. It's part of the journey to treatment, to getting out of the problem. So if somebody is into treatment, maybe somebody has been into a rehabilitation center, and then the person comes and now falls back into it, it doesn't mean that treatment has failed. You know? I
have an important letter here from Mohammed. He says, please, I need help on how to stop the use of tramadol. I find it difficult to stop. Over a decade now, I had tried multiple times, but I couldn't win the war. Please help. I am watching your program.
Yeah.
What would you say to
Mohammed, please, like you have said, you have tried. It is beyond you. It is not a problem of your will now. You know, substance use would hijack your will. It will take over that part of your brain that helps you to think clearly, that helps you, that motivates you, that helps you to control your emotions, to control your impulses and your desires. So you cannot do it by yourself. The same way that if you have malaria, you cannot say that, oh, I can wish this malaria to go away because it's a disease. So you need help. Please, Mohammed, approach a doctor. They will guide you. Don't suffer anymore. You've been on it for so long. There's help available.
Thank you so much for coming, and with that, I think that's a good place to close. Thank you for being so bold about the problem, Mohammed. Do approach a doctor for help. And thank you for watching this program from your homes and wherever you're watching. I'm Mary Alale Yusuf. Have a lovely day.